Hi there, it's time to look at Hedera through the Wyckoff lens. If you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key items I'll cover during the session. So let's start with the weekly chart of Hedera. We discussed that Hedera is still within the distribution phase. It looks like it's at the mid-late stage at least. As of this moment, the price range or the price spread isn't really high, and the volume has come down to very low. However, when we get to the daily chart, we'll be able to see more that there are signs that seems the downtrend isn't over yet, even though it looks like it's finding support above this white line. So this white solid line is the top edge of the long-term playground zone, meaning since 2019, about 70-80% of the time, the price of Hedera was trading within this area. Of course, along with time, I have to adjust this, but as of this moment, it seems like it's finding support along the same line that the previous 2 signs of weaknesses were, one in April, one in June. Okay, so let's see how this eventually ends up. While we are here, we are expecting either one of these going to happen. Either we'll see another bounce, another last one of supply, or it's going to go really this time into accumulation. Of course, nothing is going to stop it to accumulate higher. For that, it's going to take some time before we can observe that pattern in the weekly time frame. Before we get to the daily, there's something interesting I want to do with you together while we are in the weekly chart, and that is to add in these tags that describes what actually are the behaviors of people during the Wyckoff stages, so you can understand better what's going on. So during the very early stage of distribution, that's when October, November last year kicks in. That's actually the period where the whales did their first round of selling, offloading whatever they have on hand to the retail, the smaller fishes. Then comes the buying climax, where retail FOMO gets to the max. Of course, subsequently there can be second test or upthrust as well. That's where the late FOMO or fake boo comes in. It pumps to a very high level, but then quickly retreats. And the last one of supply are where the whales or the early movers of small fishes start to get out. Or not actually for the whales, for the start. Actually, it's the last bit they're offloading to the smaller fishes that are still willing to buy the dip. Okay, that describes what actually is happening around these areas. Of course, the subsequent ones just repeats whatever that's happened before. Now that we are at this stage, it seems like Hedera is surviving better than some other altcoins, that it hasn't fully re-entered in accumulation back in the beginning of this year. Alright, so let's hope if it really comes to an accumulation, it's not going to end too low when it bottoms out. Last time, during 2022 all the way to 2024, it bottomed around this level of 4 cents. Alright, we're still over 3 times above that price. That's the big picture. And almost forgotten is to put in these as well for the accumulation cycle. So during the stage when the distribution finishes and you're getting into the early stage of the accumulation, that's where the PS, the preliminary support, gets in. That's where people panic sell whilst people are still panic selling while the whale is starting to get in. So we see quite a bit of buying at that point. And then comes the selling climax, where the volume gets relatively lower and lower. I think I have to move this across. This should come here. Yeah, it's not necessarily a spring, but let's keep it over there. So selling climax is the time where the price spread and volume both get slow. And then comes the automatic rally. That sets the trading range top. So panic over for selling climax, accumulation cycle trading range top, you see across this line, most of the time the price stays below that level. And then finally, this testing period is a test for paper hands and diamond hands. If there are still a bit of paper hands around, obviously these kind of movements are going to shake them out. Once the price can't go any further down, meaning only diamond's hand left, then that's when the big guy is starting to move the price upwards. And right before that, that can be the sign of strength with price advancement combined with volume. We see these kind of longer volume bars compared to the previous ones, as well as subsequent last test or last point of support, backup period where the whales may get in their last long position before they distribute later on, and the cycle repeats. So that's the big picture. Now let's get to the daily. The daily chart, these tags are totally different from the one in the weekly, because like you find out on the internet, Wyckoff is more for a longer term time frame. It's not for daily. It's just experimental that we're doing this in daily. So during the period after October 10th all the way into mid-November, I consider that the preliminary support stage where people panic sell, some whales get in, and we have just seen the selling climax a week or so ago, and we had the second test as well. We expect more tests to come. While we are still, or Hedera is still trading on the weaker side of the downward channel, so this blue box. Under this dashed line is the weaker side or the lower half of the box. We hope to see it move towards the stronger side. However, the volume bar yesterday, look at how high the volume it was. There may be a lot of change of hands happens within this little candlestick. Today, the price went up. However, the volume isn't following. So that seems to be a fake bull to me. And the price may come further down to test the lower levels. Alright, may it be the level that the October 10th kind of showed us. That's around 8 cents. Yeah, roughly 8 cents. Okay, so if this white line, the top edge of the long-term playground zone at around 14 cents, actually 13 cents, is not providing sufficient support like the October 10th. Unfortunately, the test will dig deeper towards the 8 cents line. Alright, so we know that there's even lower level that we don't hope the price to test, but there's still a possibility. So let's hope to see declining volume continues on the red days instead of having sudden spike of volume on the red day. So that's kind of negating the signal that's been given in the past few days. Alright, so that's Hedera for now. It may get into accumulation, or it may start accumulation at a higher level compared to 2002 to 2004. Hopefully that's the case, and thanks for joining me. See you in other sessions. Ciao.